Okay. You see when see when your line says this finance charge? Okay. This people always are asking, what do I do when I see this line right here that says finance charge? And there are two things that you do when you see that line. So that's the key. There are two things. Whenever I see this populate on my action plan, there are two things to do. The first thing to do is that it believes that there's going to be some finance charge that you're going to be assessed. When you look at your credit card statement, whenever you see this line, that means that that credit card is closed, is what it means. When we originally, remember, we were asking about the statement dates and the closing date, or closing date, statement date, and the due date or the payment date. Remember when we put all those things in there for you? Okay, so what was it referring to? It was so it would populate this line right here. And so there are two lines about this card. There's one that says finance charge, and then there's one where there's a payment. And so, but what we have to do is we have to try to be able to keep basically the account balances correct inside of the system. And if we miss this one thing, then our balances are always off. Now, how many people here have just gone over to the accounts tab and then just adjusted the account numbers, the balance numbers? How many people have done that? Okay, everyone. Okay, maybe not here, but it's okay if you have. It doesn't matter. But with what I'm going to show you, your account balances are always going to be correct. Okay, and here's the way that works. And so when you see this line, it's because that card closed, is what it is. And so we're going to do two things. The first thing is that we click the line and we acknowledge the interest that we've paid. In other words, when you see that line, you'll have to look up that card's statement. Most of you probably get it by email, right? And it says your statement's ready to review. On that statement, you're going to look for two things. One of them, you're going to look for where it says interest charges or interest fees. In other words, how much interest was I charged this month during that statement period? How much interest did I get charged? Like this Sapphire card, if I look in here, it thinks that the interest is going to be about $2.34. Now, if it was a different number, you just put whatever that number is. It wasn't 234, it was 233, and then just execute. Okay, so whenever I see the line that says finance charge, I'm going to go ahead and look that credit card up. I'm expecting that that thing closed. I'm going to open up that statement that says closed on 4/10, and it's going to tell me two things that I want to see. The first one is it's going to tell me what the finance charges were or the interest fees, and I'm going to acknowledge that, and I'm going to put in there what they really were. Okay, that's number one. And then just click execute. And then what will happen is that this line will leave your action plan. So what's the second thing that we do? We scroll down to this unitemized. Now, this might be named differently for yours. Okay, yours might say unitemized expenses. It might say monthly living expenses, or it could say everything else. Okay, and so the second thing though we'll do though is we'll come right to this line right here, and we're going to execute, and we're going to tell it the rest of the story. We're going to tell it how much money we charged on Chase Sapphire card. And so that month we charged $1,000. And notice how it's keeping up with what your budget is right there. And so we just told it that we charged an extra $1,000 though on that card. And we know that we were doing it on what? We were doing it up here earlier in the month, weren't we? And so about the 10th, it said. So we would say on about the 10th. And then we would do that. Why? Because your credit card, everybody's familiar with the annual percentage rate. Hey, my credit card's 29.99. How many of you are familiar with their daily periodic rate? Okay, it's also on your statement, but we don't ever really pay attention to that one right there. But that tells us about how the interest is being charged per day, is what that does. And so but you won't need to worry about that. If you will just go, when you see the line that says finance charge, if you will just simply record the finance charge in two things for that card. Number one, record the finance charge on the line that says finance charge. Number two,